The Traitors, a spy movie from 1962 that was intended as a British B-movie, but is a very solid espionage movie, with a MacGuffin, a spy ring that must be busted, and Americans and Brits working together. Let's decode this one and find the Traitors. Hi, this is Dan.
And Tom.
From SpyMovieNavigator.com and our show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. All right, let's get to it. All right, on YouTube, you'll run across a bunch of British B-movies with various titles. This one was on YouTube as of this recording. We mentioned in our Night Train to Munich episode that British B-movies are low budget, sometimes an hour or so long, and do not have many famous actors or lavish sets, and are probably made pretty quickly. They were meant to be the second feature in a double feature set in the movie theaters. But some have a very nice story and are worth a watch. One we liked is this one, The Traitors. And we're going to decode that one right now.
Yeah, so Dan, you said this is yet another movie whose title is used for different TV shows and movies.
That's true.
It makes discussing this stuff always difficult. And right now there's a show being played called The Traitors. It's a game show.
Yeah.
Like a reality game show. So we're not talking about that. So as you said, we're talking about the 1962 movie. Great year. That's the year I was born. The Traitors.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about this B-movie thing. Yeah. I mean, as you mentioned, they're low budget. And this movie definitely delivers on that.
Yeah. Very well, I'd say.
Yeah, it's this 1962 movie, and it's in black and white. Heck, Bonanza came out in the 50s, and that was in color.
Nice color, too.
Yeah. Now, black and white can work even today. I mean, take a look at the 2020 movie Mank. That movie was shot in black and white, and it received 10 Academy Award nominations.
Yeah.
So black and white can work.
I like black and white.
And it can have an impact. But I think here it was in black and white probably to save money. Probably. Because this was a B movie.
Yeah.
And so, color's been around since 1912. Yeah. The first thing I could find that had it was a documentary called Our King and Queen Through India.
Okay.
That was from 1912.
I don't think we'll review that one.
Yeah, this movie, it's a short documentary. It's really short. But this movie was 50 years later, and it's black and white, not trying to give you the, like what they did with Mank, trying to give you a period feel to it.
Yeah. Although,
now, the other thing is that same year, Dr. No came out.
Yeah,
and you look at that title sequence in Dr. No.
A lot of color.
It's all about the color, and there's none in this movie. So I just think, you say it's a B movie. I think they saved money by doing it this way.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think there's any doubt about it. But because these were the second feature in a movie theater, right? So they're not going to spend a lot of money on this kind of stuff. However, I think in this particular one, the black and white really adds to the realism of this movie in terms of the sense that you get and the feel that you get of what they're showing. So we're going to talk about that, I think.
Yeah, but it feels to me more like a 1945 movie or something, but the cars aren't from that period.
No, it was made in 62.
Yeah.
The music in this is definitely a 1960s thing. It starts with some drum taps and then a theme that will play often, maybe like 15 notes over and over again. The music was by Johnny Douglas, and I love that they say that the screenplay is based on an idea by Joe Levy and Jim O'Connelly. That's kind of nice. Hey, I got an idea.
Let's make a B movie on it. Now, the thing about this, you're saying this music is definitely a 60s thing.
Yeah.
But if you compare this music to Mad Helm with Dean Martin, Our Man Flint, any of the 60s Bond movies, this movie doesn't even come close to comparing, making it really feel like 60s music.
Yeah.
The thing that surprises me about this music is I normally would hate this because it's repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the same 15 notes.
Yeah.
And I refuse to go see the movie Cats again because of that repetitive crap, and it just keeps repeating and repeating. It's like the Small World ride at Disney World.
Oh, that drives me crazy.
Get me off, right?
Yeah.
And here they do this repetition, but it's not over the top with the way they did it, and for me, it kind of works.
Yeah. Right? Okay.
And in the James Bond movie, there's repetition, sort of. Right, there's the James Bond theme.
Different kind.
It's a totally different type of feel.
Yeah.
But this is not definitely as annoying as Cats.
Okay, there's Tom's review of Cats. There you go.
So I'm good with that.
Yeah. I think it works here at times. But for me, it was like, okay, we should be hearing those notes anytime soon now.
Yeah, we haven't heard them for a minute or two. It's time.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Johnny Douglas wrote those things, for crying out loud. You got all 15 of them, I think, by himself. I remember being at the museum here, the Art Institute in Chicago, and there was a Kai Bot exhibit, and my daughter was with us, and she was like 4 or something, and she was looking at the drawings. He had drawings there, and she said, "Did he do that all by himself?" So I say the same thing here about Johnny Douglas. Did he do all those 15 notes all by himself? All right.
Get on him.
Yeah, get on him. All right, the director, Robert Tronson. Okay, well, look, he was a director and writer known for The Avengers in 1961, the ITV television Playhouse in 1955, and The Guardians 1971. So, I mean, that's pretty cool stuff. This isn't like some real B guy who's just like, okay, whatever. This is a guy who's done some stuff. The movie is well directed. The shots are, like I said, they're real. The dialogue delivery was terrific, I thought. And
I agree with you there.
And the feel of the movie, it just has that real feeling to it. You get this sense that you're kind of on the streets with them and the rain and London and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, this could really be happening, and it looks like that. So I like that.
Well, that's true, because there's nothing fantastical about it either.
No.
Which we get in some of the movies.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane stunts or anything like that. You don't have that here.
No. And look, we're saying this is a B movie. And again, hey, it's cheap. It says done inexpensively. The acting here is really solid throughout. And James Maxwell, who plays Ray Ellis, was known for his work in An Enemy of the State, 1965, The Portrait of a Lady, 1968, The Terrorists in 1974. So, I mean, not bad. I mean, it's a good actor, right?
Yeah, but those were all after this movie. So
That's
was
true.
He getting his acting chops with this?
Maybe.
Now, he had done 18 TV shows and 2 movies before The Traitors, but this actually kind of had a TV show feel to me.
Okay. I didn't feel that way. I mean, the length of it certainly is like an hour-long TV show. It's an hour and 6 minutes, the whole movie.
Yeah. Put commercials on it, you got an hour-and-a-half TV show.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
I agree with you on the acting being good throughout.
Yeah.
But the way they played the Ellis guy, just cracked me up.
Really?
And I don't know if you noticed this, but when he came into the office on the first day of the project.
Yeah.
So they meet one day and the next day he shows up.
Right.
He's chewing gum.
Yes. I did notice that.
And so to me, it's one of 2 different things. And I think I saw it a few more times in the movie.
I think so too. Yeah. He was chewing gum.
Yeah. Plus, they also got him coffee when he got there in the morning. And Ellis makes a comment about it being cold in the office.
Yeah.
And the Lane guy retorts, "Don't worry, you'll be acclimatized in a couple of years."
Yeah.
So I think all of these were a way to position Ellis as an outsider, this American who doesn't fit in here in London. And as the movie progresses, he wins them over. But it seemed a little weird to me that they had. It was like, what? All Americans chew gum? Is that what they were trying to say?
I think you're
smoking.
You're reading way too much into that. He's chewing gum, so he's chewing gum. Here's one American who's chewing gum. The coffee thing, I think Lane asked for a couple of cups of coffee, so it wasn't like tea versus coffee thing there. I don't think. And he definitely is the outsider. There's no question about it. Kane and his boss, when they were talking about this mission that they had to go on and figure out, they were none too pleased when the general told them that they had to be working together with Ellis, the American. So for sure, Ellis was the outsider.
No, that's true.
And when we see that as as we're going along here. But you're right also that there is some kind of symbiotic relationship that occurs with Lane and Ellis that I think turns out pretty well, right?
Yeah.
Patrick Allen, who plays John Kane, he was in some other great stuff too, and is known for Dial M for Murder, 1954, Glenn Cannon, 1959, and UFO, 1970. And Dial M for Murder, I mean, with Ray Milland. That's a fabulous movie. And Allen,
absolutely.
Yeah, Allen played Detective Pearson in that one. So, yeah, this is a B movie, but this is one of the good B movies we found here that I think is definitely worth a watch, right?
B doesn't mean bad.
I know, it just means cheap.
Low budget.
Okay, low budget. But this one, I think, rises above the budget, right?
Yeah, and there are two women in here too that have good roles too.
Yes.
You've got Zena Walker, who plays Annette Kane.
Yes.
And she's terrific here. I mean,
I thought so too.
She did most of her work on stage. She did some TV and some movies. But I really like her in this role.
Yeah, she's good.
And then there's Jacqueline Ellis, who plays Mary.
Yes.
Again, another solid performance.
Yes.
And she's got a fairly extensive TV background, with the biggest things being the ITV Television Playhouse,
Yep.
Laughter from the Whitehall, and Frederick March Presents Tales from Dickens.
Yeah, pretty good stuff.
And she was in a lot of British B movies like The Traitors, as well as The Sinister Man, also with Patrick Allen.
Yeah, so she's done a couple of B movies with Patrick Allen. So, yeah, this is pretty good. So, it is a solid cast.
Now, the movie The Traitors starts out with a whole title sequence showing us an aerial panorama of a city, and then finally zooming in on a couple of cars, and one in particular that stops at a building that has large plate glass windows, and a couple of guys get out of the car. So one is John Lane, the main character. The other is Colonel Burlinson, and they have an appointment with the General Waring.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this Burlinson guy is great. He portrays I'm the boss who doesn't want to make waves, but wants things my way. And so in many British spy movies, you see this. This boss is portrayed who doesn't want to do a lot of dirty work. He's always covering his backside, doesn't want to make waves. And here in Burlinson's case, he doesn't know how to manage at all. And he always leaves the conversation complimenting the agent or the team in the most insipid way. Like, as he's leaving,
keep up the good work. I'll try.
I mean, just hilarious.
Yeah. You're right. He plays it well, though. And because he is that kind of a guy. He wants this to be successful. He wants it to happen. And he doesn't want any mistakes that'll make him look bad. So that pretty much sums up his attitude. All right. This is not going to be a high-action movie. So if you like the Mission Impossible kind of action, the Bond kind of action that you see with car chases and everything else, all right, you're not going to get that here. This is more true espionage stuff. This is, I think, what real spy stuff would be like, not the Bond-type adventures. But here we have stakeouts, we've got trailing people, we got monitoring phone calls, and stuff like that. No big high-tech stuff. No missile-equipped cars. Their cars were pretty simple. Or 47 body counts in the pre-title, because there is no pre-title. and so you got all this going on.
I really like, you mentioned the trailing people. And the way they show this, it shows teamwork and feels very real to me. But you don't see it in too many movies. I mean, in the Fourth Protocol, there's a little bit of it. But you don't see trailing done this way, especially with a team. And I really like the way they do that.
Yeah, it does have, like I said, it creates that sense of realism. And I liked it. I liked that a lot.
Okay, so we're at the start of this espionage mission. And mind you, we just killed 2 minutes of an hour and 6 minute movie. And sure, this isn't a James Bond title sequence by any means. I mean, and this is a black and white movie.
Yeah. You mentioned about tracking these people, too. I mean, really, in Bond, you kind of saw the way Felix Leiter maybe was tracking Bond and Goldfinger a little bit, but they had the high-tech gadgets. So, I mean, there was some trailing like that, but this is like down and dirty, black and white, rainy day, trailing people.
And passing people off.
Realism.
Right, having one part of the team trail for a bit.
Yeah.
And then get away and somebody else picks it up to make it less obvious that you're being trailed.
Yeah. Now there's some nice touches. It's a short movie, and they're being escorted up to see the general by this military man. And they have to wait a few seconds for an elevator, which I thought was a nice touch. You got an hour and 6 minutes, right, to do this movie. And some of it you gotta hang on to your seats for, because things happen. But yeah, I like that they had to wait a few seconds for the elevator, because again, added to a little sense of realism. And then they're walking down this corridor, this hallway upstairs to get to the general's office, and they're walking down for quite a while, and they're avoiding people walking towards them and so on, and again adding to this sense of realism and to the wonder of what's going to happen when they get to the general's office, of course, because it is a pretty long walk down the corridor. But again, it added that sense of realism, and it was just a simple thing to do. And I noticed on the clock it's like 3:40 in the afternoon. So there you go.
Yeah, they definitely wrap realism in here right from the get-go, which I do like.
All right, they get to the general's office. Lane and Burlinson are introduced to a Major Ray Ellis that we mentioned before, the American. And he's connected with NATO security in Munich, and we find out that Lane is Burlinson's second in command. So he's up there. This guy's big, right? And Ellis is going to brief these guys on what has transpired, which is going to be the foundation of the mission. All right.
So in this brief, Ellis tells Burlinson and Lane that there was a plane crash, and it was near a U.S. base, and one person had this diplomatic passport. So they found some microfilm, and the prints are from something that I think is called the Trigger Project, about an atomic-powered rocket engine.
The MacGuffin. We got a
MacGuffin. Now, I said I think it's called the Trigger Project. I went back and listened to this, and I've seen things written about this movie that call it the Tiger Project, without an R at the beginning. And I think I hear Trigger. So I'm not sure which is right.
Have a look in the bottom right-hand corner. The Trigger Project? But it can't be. I'm afraid it is.
I've been out of the country for over a year now, and I'm a bit out of touch. What is the Trigger Project?
Well, under NATO auspices, a group of British scientists in this country have been working on an atomic-powered rocket engine.
I think I hear Trigger as well. And I like the way Trigger sounds better anyway than Tiger. Tiger's overused.
Okay, so anyways, we've got this MacGuffin.
We're calling it Trigger.
Yeah, so assuming Trigger's right, I went out to try to find if there was any significance for Trigger. And I tried at different spellings.
Of course.
But I didn't find much. But I don't know of any correlation to an atomic-powered rocket engine.
Yeah, which is why it's a good name for a secret project, because nobody could find anything about it. Which
Very
is
secret.
Good. So we know there's a spy among us who's working on a top secret project, right? Because from the microfilm, it should not have been in anyone else's hands, right? Lane points out that they want to get the entire communist cell that must be behind this. And he thinks that's like 4 to 5 people who are behind this stealing of these documents. So it's not just one traitor spy. So we're 6 minutes now into the movie, and we have what we need to know. And Alice will be working with Lane. Now we got to wonder, is that going to work out, right? It does concern NATO security, so Alice is involved. All right. I liken this Lane-Alice relationship to the James Bond and Felix Leiter relationship, right? The British agent working with the American. It's a nice touch here, 1962.
Yeah, and I think that is a good comparison. I mean, and you know, Lane's honorable, and this relationship, kind of like Bond and Leiter's, might work because they have kind of a casual interplay and dialogue between these two guys.
That. Yeah. And it gets better and better as they get to know each other. So That's pretty good. And then they support each other later in the movie, too, which is a nice moment, right? There's some great lines here, too, which I love. For instance, they're in the elevator, and Burlinson is telling Lane that he must be briefed completely, as Lane was very lax in his last assignment. I know where you're going with this. Right? And Lane tells Burlinson,
communications were rather difficult from Central Congo.
Communications were rather difficult from Central Congo. Bam! Right in your face. I mean, that was kind of like
absolutely
Bond, right?
I mean, that was a fantastic line. And it also shows Lane as kind of this anti-management agent that we see in Harry Palmer and even James Bond. So I thought it was very kind of Palmer Bond-like, but what a great in-your-face line.
Yeah, that was terrific. And he delivers it really casually, like, boom. I'll drop this little bomb in your face. All right. So they're working on who might have done this, who might have access to the papers and so on. And Lane and Ellis work together to find out who their suspects might be. And they figure out who to trail. Right?
But we're not going to tell you.
All right.
So they're trailing this guy. And, they're going swapping cars and that kind of thing. And there was at one point where they passed this war memorial. And it all reminded us of the deadly cost of war and what this mission is all about. So it's really nice the way they threw some of that stuff in here. When we did our discussion about Night Train to Munich, we talked about some of the historical clips they put in. Here, you're passing by like a historical statue or whatever, which really heightens what's going on.
Yeah, and it's just really a moment in this movie where they're showing this, and it's poignant. It's a good focus of the mission and the repercussions of war and what happens if you screw up. So I liked it. I thought that was a really
another thing they did that I thought was really good from a spy perspective. We talked about the trailing and that kind of thing. They explained something to us using the idiot boss as the parry against this description. So the boss doesn't understand the importance of two guys going into a movie theater for a short amount of time. And so Lane and Ellis kind of had to educate him what spy craft could be done in a cinema in a short amount of time. So,
yeah, I think it was the difference between Burlinson not really being a field guy, because he didn't get the sense he was a field guy. Like Lane and Ellis, these guys were field guys, and that they had this field experience and knew what things meant and connect different pieces together that Burlinson had no clue about doing. So yeah, that was really good. And again, that's a few sentences, and it really adds a lot of depth to the movie. I thought it was great. So we got car tailing, like you said, Tom. Not chases.
No chases.
But tailing, where they'll say, okay, car, the next car will pick up the tail now, so it doesn't look like one car's following the car all the time.
The whole goal is to spy, not to let yourself be known. And a chase means you're known.
Yeah, Bond kind of screws that up a lot, right? When we interviewed this ex-CIA spy, he said, because these guys are they're not driving around cars with missiles and rockets and, water cannons.
Aston Martins.
No, they're driving around ordinary cars. And so when we interviewed this ex-CIA spy, and check that episode out, he is fascinating. He said, hey, that's the kind of cars we drove. He said, because your whole idea is to fit in, not to stand out, not to be like, whoa, what's that? No, you want to fit in. So you're driving ordinary cars. So check that one out. Great stories. Good stuff. We'll put a link on our website on spymovienavigator.com to that episode.
I also like the way they passed messages. I mean, they showed real ingenuity. And the other thing is the cinema guy could lead them to the whole organization behind what they're trying to find out.
Right, which is why they didn't want to go get him right away, right? Burlinson was thinking,
just go grab the guy.
Yeah, and what we say in the beginning, that Lane and Alice, they wanted to get the whole cell. They wanted to get this whole communist cell all together, and this cinema guy maybe is the key to finding the whole cell, right? So there were some great scenes in this movie, which I think you take each one of these scenes that we'll talk about one or two of them now, and you think that is really, really well done. The dinner scene, for instance, in the restaurant with John Lane and Ray Ellis and the proprietor, this French guy, it's just terrific. The set is rather nice, actually, and the conversation is natural and telling. It's revealing. It's telling us something that we should know.
We're getting the background on these two guys based on their conversation, because they just met.
Yeah, they don't know each other all that well. And even Ellis was joking about finding good food. He's like, yeah, if you know a restaurant that has good food, that's great. Let's go there. And Lane reveals to him that he had been married once. And Ellis said, boy, that's got to be difficult, right? Being married in our business. And, and Lane was saying he was still friendly with his ex-wife. So, I mean, it's just the same kind of thing, right? That we brings up all of these images of Bond and the whole MI6 concept of recruiting agents that are many times orphaned or definitely unmarried and so on. And so we have that in this 1962 B movie, calling that out right here.
Yeah, and Lane also has this comment about how he's eaten bad meals all over the world, which again is kind of Bond-like. Like, we've got to have better food. The thing I didn't get was how they portrayed the whole Lane was married and divorced part of this. It felt to me like they were starting to film down one path, thinking this was going to be important, but then they switched to a different path. So Marcel's restaurant, the restaurant you're talking about, did Ellis feign that he didn't know that Lane was married? Because there was a conversation that Ellis had with Marcel, the guy who owns the restaurant, and it kind of sounded to me like Ellis already knew that Lane had this Annette, his ex-wife, and so I didn't get how that all placed together. I watched it a couple times. I mean, that's the nice thing about an hour movie. You can watch part of it really short. But to me, it didn't work for me because it didn't make sense that Ellis seemed to know about Annette. And it almost makes me think like something got cut in editing or whatever.
Nah, I didn't think that. I didn't think that at all.
On the conversation Ellis had with Marcel.
Yeah, but even that, I think you had Ellis. He was surprised that Lane had been married. He doesn't know Lane, right? He's just finding this out now.
But the conversation he has with Marcel, they're talking about Annette.
Yeah, they're talking about Annette, and all he knows is what Lane told him about Marcel, because Marcel, he knew Marcel from the war. He was in the French Resistance, Marcel, and he did all this stuff. So Lane knew him well, and I think Ellis was just going along with that, saying, "Oh yeah, so you knew his wife was coming, and she was upstairs, whatever he said, right?" So I thought it was fine. I thought it was
it just confused me. So when you watch
he just suspected.
Let us know what you thought. Did it make sense to you?
I think he just suspected Marcel set it up since he was such good friends with both John and Annette from the past. So I thought it was perfectly fine. I thought it was good.
One line I really liked in here was when Lane was talking about it. He says,
"Let's see, we spent, about 2 months together. Been married for nearly 5 years.
The life of a spy, you're never home."
There you go, the life of a spy. And they even went into the part where she had no idea where he was in the world for a couple years because he couldn't say. I thought all of that was really espionage stuff that you didn't see. You don't see in Bond movies. You don't see in Mission Impossible. This was really solid espionage stuff. So that was a good month. Yeah.
Yeah, and it would have worked for me if Ellis didn't have the conversation he had with Marcel.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Okay.
The dialogue is really, I thought, rather strong for a quick movie. It's crisp. The words are weighed well because the movie is, like we said, hour and 6 minutes. It's really more poetic than it is verse, because in a poem, really every word must carry its weight. And I thought the dialogue was very tightly written and beautifully delivered. I thought it was great.
Let's move forward a little bit because there's something that happens in the cinema.
Yeah.
So they're staking out the cinema now, and there's a movie, Theirs is the Glory, playing. Now, is this some made-up movie for this?
I don't think so. I think, again, this being a true spy movie, they're going to show a real movie there, right? That's going to be the title.
And they did.
Real movie.
It's a 1946 British war film about the British 1st Airborne Division's involvement in the Battle of Arnhem, which happened in 1944. So it's a nice touch. They got a real movie playing.
Yeah, there you go. I love that. I love the street scenes, too. All of the street scenes feel real to me. This on-location stuff, it looks good. And, of course, they did it because it's cheaper to go really, in a sense, on location. You're going to build all these sets, right? And it feels gritty and real. You feel almost what they're feeling when they're trailing these people, and the tenseness and, I can't be seen, and so on. I love that part of it, and black and white added to that. So
okay. I'm not sure, but but
not sure about what?
If black and white added to that.
I thought it added to the grittiness. Oh, yeah.
Well, one thing about this cinema scene is something happens there. We're not going to go into what it is, but it definitely felt real. And, so I guess if you get anything out of what we're talking about this movie is it feels real, even when a fairly major incident happens in a cinema.
Yeah. Anyway, you've seen in some of the Bond movies, the body count, even in the pre-title sequence, is enormous. Here, we're 20 minutes into the movie, and there hasn't been a single shot fired yet.
Right?
I mean, it's like, so, all right, we're not getting that same kind of stuff in this movie that you would get in a Bond movie, which I think is good. There's really this, and it again adds to this espionage element.
Yeah, this is not an action movie. It's an espionage movie.
Yeah.
So anyways, with what happens in the cinema gets Burlinson kind of upset. And he's going to tell off Lane about it. And gets in this snitty conversation with Lane, who then says, he didn't like it. So Lane tells Burlinson, remember, Lane reports to Burlinson. And so since Burlinson's given him such garbage about this, Lane tells Burlinson, hey, I'm going to resign and I'm going to tell the minister why. So I'm going above your head and say, this is why you're losing a good agent. Because this jamoke idiot manager. And remember, this manager is all about don't make waves, covering my backside, and now he's got this agent who pulls a James Bond on him.
Yeah, I loved it, right? He's going to resign.
Where have we seen that in Bond movies after this movie came out? We saw it on Emergency Secret Service.
It a couple times, right?
License to Kill.
Yeah, License to Kill. Yeah, hey, it's not a country club 007. Yeah,
and I love that in this case, the threat is to go over his head and tell the minister. Yeah. Because I don't remember Bond or Hunt saying that's what they were going to do.
I don't think they ever made that kind of a threat. They just were going to quit. Hey, I'm going to do what I want to do.
And a big difference in what Burlinson does, especially when Judi Dench started playing M was always protecting the agent against the idiot upper-level management. And here, Burlinson's not siding with his agent. So I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I loved it. I think Lane, again, being tough, just like he delivered the line about tough to communicate from Central Congo. Here it is, another one. It's like, boom, okay, here's why I'm good in the field, and here's why you don't know what's going on in the field. I'm going, and he calls his bluff, and that was a good moment.
Another thing in this movie that I liked, right, so there's this antagonism, is there aren't many gadgets, but the gadgets they have feel real, because they are. So there's a picture-perfect thermos in this movie. I'm going to leave it there. It's a gadget. Right.
It's a gadget. Oh, we see a gadget. I think it's the first real gadget we saw.
I think you're right. And there aren't many of those in this movie. I mean, a little bit later, we see a small pocket-sized camera that's used. There are a couple of bugs planted, but that's about it.
Yeah, and it's really the whole element of that adds to the realism, I think, too, that, hey, we're using what we have, and they're not exaggerating a gadget into something that wasn't believable. These were kind of things that were around in 1962, and so they were putting them into action. That was perfectly fine.
And another believable thing they did here was there's a doctor involved in this.
Yes.
And he is involved in the plot, but acts as a very good cover for one of the guys in the plot. I'm not going to go into details, but we've seen doctors have intermediary roles before, and this is another example of it.
Yeah, and I thought those were another bunch of great street scenes when this person's walking in a hurried manner down the street, and you get that feeling again of being there with them and seeing this action take place almost like you were trailing them or you were seeing it happening on the street. I liked it. That was really well done. We mentioned this character Mary when you said we got a couple of strong women who are involved in this story as well. And this other one was Mary, right? She had been working with Lane, and she works with Lane. And he says to Alice, she's one of our secret weapons. Kind of like Bond was really a secret weapon in many ways, if you know what I mean. When M tells him, pump her for information, whatever.
What's that mean, Dan?
You have to do it, right? Yeah, so it's kind of, we got a similar situation here, except this woman, Mary, is the agent, and she's going to do what she has to do to advance this mission and capture or get this communist cell of 4 or 5 people. She's going to play her part, whatever she has to do, right? And there's some great dialogue between her and Alice a little later on. Terrific. Again, very, very well done.
Well, in dialogue that feels, again, real, but we've heard similar things or it's been alluded to in other spy movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because there's a part where Ellis starts falling for Mary, and she says she doesn't want to have a relationship in her job. Right? And her comment is,
"This is a dirty business, Ray. We have to use dirty methods. Need I go on?"
"This is a dirty business, Ray. We have to use dirty methods. Need I go on?" Now, that's pretty racy for 1962. What dirty methods? What dirty methods is she talking about here?
Yeah.
I mean, is this kind of like when Bond says in Thunderball to Fiona that he didn't really enjoy the tete-a-tete they had? He only did it for king and country.
She is the secret weapon.
She is the secret weapon. But I just like the way she kind of said, I'm going to do what I got to do.
Yeah, and she has done it, obviously, in the past. And so that's why she's preventing herself from getting involved in relationships. I thought that was great. It's a simple line, and it opens the floodgates in our minds of what the heck she's been doing and what she does to do her job well. So that's, again, boom, one sentence, well-written dialogue, well-delivered dialogue, perfect, really. And there's more trailing. She even does some of the trailing on the street as well. And so she's very involved in this caper.
Part of this caper, there's a trap that happens that the good guys are going to lay for the bad guys. And I don't want to go into the details of what they do here.
No.
But there's a similar trap. If you saw the movie, the Brad Pitt movie Allied, where he's a spy, and there's an operation in there called Blue Dye. Now, I've not found that name in espionage stuff before. Mm-hmm. There's something similar called a canary trap, but in Allied, they called it a Blue Dye operation. And there's something similar that happens here in this movie.
Yeah, we're not going to go into the details of it. You're going to watch it, and you're going to see the ending of it, and you're going to realize all the stuff we're talking about here is going to add to what you're going to be looking for in the movie. And that's the whole idea here. We're not going to tell you the ending of the movie and so on. There are some great relationships in this movie, and the relationship we mentioned between Lane and his ex-wife, Annette, is a complicated relationship, but it's really well done. She knows he loves his job and can't really give it up, and yet they still love each other, and they're still true to each other, and they still want to see each other, and he was going to try to go to Paris to see her and so on. That really is, again, only a few sentences here and there in the movie, but it develops this whole, in your mind, this whole relationship that you think is pretty darn nice.
Yep, absolutely.
Right?
All right, so let's skip ahead, and we have whatever this trap thing was occur. And very quickly, we get to the ending. I mean, it's an hour and 6 minute movie, so it moves pretty quickly.
You have to pay attention.
So there's some nice sound effects here and everything with how they do all this.
Mm-hmm.
So the movie ends, but then if you look at the marketing for this movie and you look at the poster says she was the alluring bait in a deadly secret war that never ends. Mm-hmm. Was that woman supposed to be Mary? Mary had very short hair, unlike that woman in the poster.
Yeah. I
mean, she looked a little more like Annette than Mary. But they didn't use Mary as an alluring bait. The poster to me makes no sense because I don't see the tie-in between the marketing poster and the movie I watched called The Traitors.
Okay. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen in posters that have nothing to do with the movie, just like trailers. There's stuff in trailers sometimes, and those things are not even in the movie. I mean, they're not even in the movie. They cut it, they change their mind, they release a trailer a year before the movie, and they decide to cut a scene. So I think some of that has happened here, too, with the posters. But, I mean, Mary was, and she said she has to do her work, and sometimes it's dirty work, and so she would be used as an alluring object if that needed to be.
But in this movie, it didn't need to be.
Well, I don't think they had the time to develop all of that kind of relationship thing. But it was put out there for us that, hey, she is bait or could be used as bait because if that's what they needed to do, that's what they were going to do. And she was fine with that. So I'm fine with that. I think it's okay.
Okay, so there's two things I questioned about the movie. One wasn't the movie, but the poster. And the other was the conversation Ellis has with Marcel. But otherwise, to me, I enjoyed this movie.
Okay. And I have no problems with either of those problems that you had problems with. And so I would say, all in all, for an hour and 6 minutes, you are going to enjoy this movie if you like spy movies, which is why you're listening to this in the first place. Watch this movie. Right now, there's a bunch of these B movies on YouTube. Will it stay there forever? I don't know. But The Traitors was on YouTube as of this recording. Check it out. It's really a well-done B movie. I would even upgrade this to a B+. All right, so that's a wrap. This is Dan.
And Tom.
The SpyMovieNavigator.com and our show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Please subscribe to our show in your favorite podcast app. That helps us out. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you spending some time with us. Thanks.